is up? Welcome to the pod. Today we're talking about cardio and which type of it burns the most body fat. You've probably heard of something called the fat burning zone. Older pieces of cardio equipment still have these zones built into their algorithms and listed on the machines, but the concept of the fat burning zone is wildly misunderstood. And so I want to unpack this for you so that you can understand how the fat loss process works in terms of cardio, and therefore you can implement the most effective strategy for you given your priorities, goals, preferences, time constraints, etc. So why is the fat burning zone so misleading? When we are doing lower intensity activities like walking or chilling on the couch and watching TV, our bodies tend to use more fat for fuel. When we are doing higher intensity activities like lifting weights and sprinting, our bodies tend to use more carbohydrate or sugar for fuel. It is super important to mention that there is a huge difference between using fat for fuel and using body fat for fuel. And this is the primary reason why this concept is so misunderstood. Using fat for fuel is completely different than using body fat for fuel. Very similar language, drastically different outcome. Let's dig in a little further here. Most folks choose to eat both fat and carbs. I am one of those people. You probably are too, unless you're eating a very low or maybe even zero carbohydrate diet, but that is highly unlikely. So, when you are walking, you are primarily using the fat that you eat to supply the energy for that walk. When you are sprinting, you're primarily using the carbs that you eat to supply the energy for that run. Notice that neither of these scenarios, walking or sprinting, are being fueled by body fat. Protein isn't as much of a fuel-related macro, but more so a structural and function-related macro because our bodies are literally made of it. So the only scenario in which our bodies use body fat to fuel activities is when we are in a calorie deficit, meaning there is less energy in and more energy out, or we're burning more calories than we are consuming. And this makes sense because our bodies have to have a reason to tap into stored energy, aka body fat, and if we have more calories coming in than we do going out, there is no reason for our bodies to tap into our body fat for fuel because it already has the calories that we're consuming from our food to use for fuel first. You can think about it like your checkings and savings account. The funds in your checkings account are the carbs and fat that you're eating. And then your savings account is stored body fat. And so there is no reason to dip into your savings account until you have spent all the money in your checkings account. Exact same idea in terms of burning body fat. So if you have a constant surplus of money in your checkings account, you will never dip into your savings, meaning you will never lose body fat. It doesn't matter how much cardio you do in the fat burning zone or how much cardio you do via sprinting. If there is no reason to dip into your savings account because you have a constant influx of money into your checkings, body fat loss will never happen. You must completely drain your checkings account in order to access your savings. And so the quote unquote fat burning zone is essentially irrelevant when it comes to body fat loss, because at the end of the day, whether you are using carbs for fuel via a higher intensity activity, or you're using fat for fuel via a lower intensity activity, unless you are using body fat for energy, fat loss ain't happening. So the answer to the question, what type of cardio burns the most body fat, is the type of cardio or activity that results in the most total calories burned over time. It doesn't matter whether you're walking, sprinting, or anything in between. It all comes down to total energy used or total calories burned. Now, someone might say, okay, well, in that case, sprinting is going to burn more calories than walking given the same amount of time. And so I'm just going to sprint, which makes sense at first glance. But how long can you all out sprint for before you need to take a break? Let's be generous and say that it's 30 seconds. How long can you walk for before you need to take a break? Probably like 3 hours. So yes, sprinting or higher intensity activities will burn more total calories given the same amount of time, because 30 seconds of sprinting is going to burn more energy than 30 seconds of walking. But sprinting isn't nearly as sustainable. And so it's important that we take a step back and look at the big picture. How many all-out sprints can you really do at any given time? Maybe 5, 10 if you're really fit. You also need to factor in things like warm-up time, because if you just head out your front door and start sprinting, you're going to pull a hammy and you're not even going to be able to walk properly for a week. How many calories is that going to burn? Not many. Higher intensity activities are also more fatiguing, and so they take longer to recover from. For example, unless you're extremely conditioned to do so, you're not going to be able to sprint every day. But you can absolutely walk every day, because walking is not very fatiguing at all. I walk about 12 to 15,000 steps per day easy, and have for ages. It is not tiring in the slightest. It doesn't make me sore. I don't need to warm up for it. It's extremely accessible in the sense that I can do it anywhere. It staves off injuries as well as back pain. Tons of bang for your buck. Now you might be thinking, well, what about just running at a slower pace, i.e. jogging? And jogging is a super cool middle ground. However, it is also quite a bit more fatiguing than walking is. I jog on a regular basis, but my calves, for example, definitely take more time to recover from a jog than they do a walk. And so I don't jog even close to every day. Now, I could condition myself by building up my jogging volume, force my body to adapt, and then become less sore given the same amount of total running. But to be honest, I just don't want to run that much. If you do, by all means, get it. However, for the vast majority of people, walking is actually going to be the most effective, quote unquote, cardio modality for body fat loss, because practically speaking, it is going to allow you to burn the largest number of total calories over the course of time. It's not because it's at a lower intensity and therefore you're using more fat for fuel like we just chatted about. It is a total calories burned dealio. It's so accessible. You can walk right out your door and start immediately. It's easy to do a bunch of because it's not tiring or very fatiguing. i.e., it doesn't require a lot of recovery afterwards. You're supporting your body weight the entire time. And so if we compare it to something like cycling, all other things being equal, you are going to burn more calories via walking simply because you are not outsourcing your body weight to the seat of your bike, but rather to your legs. Walking is also an amazing way to stay injury-free. And if you are injury-free, you can continue moving without needing to rehab or rest any injuries. And if you are continuously moving, you are continuously burning calories. It does an incredible job of relieving back pain. It's been a game changer for myself in this regard, as well as a countless number of my clients. And so, circling back to our key question again, what type of cardio burns the most body fat? Big picture, for the vast majority of people, it is going to be walking. Walking is so underrated and overlooked. And this is why I'm such an advocate for my clients to hit 10,000 steps per day. It is such a nice complement to the key regulator of fat loss and body composition, which of course, as you know, is nutrition. Now, if there is a specific instance where you're extremely crunched for time and you're like, I have 15 minutes to get my fitness on, doing higher intensity activity in that 15-minute block is going to allow you to burn more total calories than doing lower intensity activity in that 15-minute block. And so in this specific context, something like sprinting may be your best bet. But if we're zooming out and looking at the big picture lifestyle-wise over the course of time, which as you know is my jam, walking is where it's at. Now you totally could mix in a few different modalities or levels of intensity. For example, you can hit your average of 10K steps per day, but also within that, you could totally have a day where you do some sprints here and there, and maybe a day where you do a moderate paced run. That's an amazing combo because you are boxing off your 10K daily, but you're also taking advantage of getting your heart rate a little bit higher on the sprint day and into a moderate spot on the jogging day. Having said that, if you don't like to run, you do not have to. You can be super lean and healthy via just eating well, getting your 10,000 steps, and sleeping 7 to 9 hours nightly. If you want to throw some sprints in or some jogging, a little bit of resistance training, a spin class, that's great, but you don't have to in order to look, feel, and perform amazingly well. A personalized nutrition strategy that suits you, daily steps, and an amount of sleep that has you waking up feeling rested and alert each and every day, that's the big picture recipe. And the two things that I like about this approach the most are, one, it works. And my clients are a testament to that. And obviously, results are the most important thing. Because if it doesn't work, who cares, right? And two, it's doable. It's realistic. You can have the quote unquote best fat loss plan in the world, but if it is not realistic and implementable on a practical level for you as an individual, it is useless. So chances are for you who's listening to this as a busy professional with a full life, the quote unquote cardio that is going to give you the best big picture result is going to be hitting your 10,000 steps per day. Just keep in mind, if you're super keen on losing fat, any form of quote unquote cardio, even walking every single day or sprinting on its own is not going to be enough to give you the fat loss result that you are after. And we see evidence of this all the time. Avid runners, exercisers, and gym goers that can't lose body fat because they are neglecting their diet. And so movement is an amazing addition to your fat loss and health routine. Just be sure that the diet piece is dialed in first and foremost, because if it is not, you are going to be wildly underwhelmed with whatever cardio modality that you choose to implement. If you're interested in applying for one-on-one nutritional coaching and or workout design with me, you can click the link in the description below or head on over to n1fitness.com/coaching. On Instagram, I'm at N1Fitness. On TikTok, I'm at the N1Fitness. And on YouTube, I am at marcusadu/N1Fitness. Feel free to leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform if you'd like to. And be sure to hit that subscribe button. Thanks for tuning in. I hope that you found this episode useful. Head out there for a walk right now, and I will catch you on the next one. See ya.